to Jim and Speaker's Pathway. This is my first time, so I'm super excited to be here. Honored to be able to present today. And you all don't know me, so this is my first time here. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I love LA. It's like a melting pot of different people, diversities, cultures. There was always something to do and something exciting going on. And so I loved living there. And when I was a teenager, all of my friends were Mexican. Who doesn't love Mexican food and Mexican culture? And they welcomed me into their culture, which I loved. And I had a dear friend, have still her name. We'll call her Lola for the sake of keeping her identity unknown to you all. And whenever we would go places, in this culture, obviously, I was the only Black person whenever we went somewhere. And so when we went places, she would introduce me as her Black friend. We'd go somewhere and she'd be like, "Hi, this is my Black friend," which made sense. Obviously, I'm Black. So, as a teenager, I didn't think anything of it. And I had another friend in the group, and she would call me Negra, which means Black in Spanish. And this was a term of endearment amongst the culture, which I embraced. And so I wore that badge and that label proudly. And this happened everywhere we went. And as I got older and I decided to try to venture out eventually, I left LA and I went to the rest of the world, to the ends of the earth, in fact. In fact, I've lived in 7 different states and a few different countries. And I noticed that wherever I went, every time I connected with the group or I connected with people that I worked with, I would always be the only Black person wherever I went. Now, they would never take it to the extent to introduce me as their Black friend, but because I was in that group and the only one, I was everyone's Black friend. And so I was used to that as a kid. And so then as an adult, I continued to wear that label everywhere we went, which was useful because I was a master adapter. Some would call it a shapeshifter, or my grandmother called me a chameleon. And she would say, "You have the gift to be able to step into any situation with any group of people, with any culture, and adapt to fit in," which served me well because I got to know so many different people and went so many different places and met and got to know so many different cultures. And so wherever I went in all of these 7 states and all of these different countries that I lived in, I adapted and I did what they did. And so if I was in California, I listened to mariachi music and we went to the concerts and we went to the dance halls and I learned how to dance to the music and I adapted to that culture. And when I lived in Nevada, there's a lot of casinos. So I worked at a casino. And after the casino, when we were done working, we'd hang out at the casino and we'd party at the casino. And when I lived in Florida, I made a lot of money out there. I had a wonderful job that allowed me to live a lifestyle that was different. So Tiffany and I wore Coach and I wore labels and I had Gucci and I spent, all my money on making sure that I looked a certain way. And I even lived in Wisconsin. And if you are familiar with Wisconsin, they're all about football. And so what did I do on Sundays? I watched the Packers play and I ate cheese curds and brats. And in the summertime, we would go to the lake and go hiking. And in the wintertime, we do all the winter things. And I went curling. I mean, what's curling? I never even knew what curling was until I went to Wisconsin and I learned and adapted to the culture of each and every place that I lived in. But at the same time, as I'm doing this, I'm losing myself. And I didn't really know what Mel wanted to do. And so now fast forward 25 years later, I've started out as a teenager and now we're 25 years later. And that same friend, Lola, is now a mom. And she invited me on vacation with her family, who I'm very close to. And so I met them up on vacation in Mexico. And I ended up rolling up to the house that we were going to be staying at, and her daughter sees me and she comes running towards the car and she's just like, "Hi, Black friend." And everyone laughed because she's like 9, and yet she hears her mom call me that. And so that's now how she identified me as well. And it was funny, and it always has been all these years, but it made me stop and think now, because that was when I was a teenager. And all these years, everywhere I've gone, I've adapted and adjusted to all these different places I've lived, and yet somehow losing myself each time I did that. And so something, I won't say snap, but something shifted in me, because now I needed to figure out, well, is this who I really am? Wherever I go, is that the label that I'm going to carry because I adjusted and did everything that everyone else did? But who am I really? And I took a step back just to, I guess, soul search is the word that I would use to find out who Mel really was, because I felt like I was living a lie. And so I took some time to go back to what I loved to do when I was younger. And when I was younger, when I wasn't hanging out with everybody else, I loved to read. In fact, I loved self help books. I love to learn about other people. And as much as I love connecting with people, they intrigue me. I mean, we're the most unique, beautiful, crazy creatures. And I wanted to learn more about how we operated, especially because I had lived a life that afforded me the opportunity to get to know so many different types of people. And so I read so many books. And so I went back to one of the books I read. Maybe you've heard of it. It's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Love that book. One of the first ones I read. And habit number 5 says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I took that to heart. I sought first to understand everybody else that I was spending time with. And I got so caught up in that I never took time to find out who I was. And because I was so good at listening to other people, everyone wanted to be my friend. In fact, they loved spending time with me, and they would walk away saying, oh my gosh, I feel so understood. I feel like my cup has been filled because Mel, she listens to me. And that became my thing. But then I wasn't having my cup filled. I didn't even know where my cup was, let alone have it filled by somebody else, because I was too busy adjusting to everyone else's needs and what they wanted and trying to fit in the box. And at this point, maybe the box, it served me well wherever I went, but I was no longer able to fit in that box. And so, are you fitting in a box? That's a challenge or a question I have for you, and I'll give you some homework in a minute. But I want you to think about the box that you may be living in. And we're such unique creatures. We're different races, we're different genders, we're different colors, we're different cultures. We wear different labels and hats, and they've been many. But sometimes what happens is that we get so stuck in fitting in a box, from family, from friends, from coworkers, that we lose ourselves completely. And that might serve you well, but at some point we have to identify with who we truly are. And so one of the things that challenged me, and so I'm going to challenge you to do this as well, is make a list of 21 different things that you love about yourself, which seems easy. And when I did this, I'm all like, oh yeah, I know 21 different things that I love about myself. And I started to list them out, and I got to like number 10. And then I blanked out. And I was like, there has to be more than 10 things that I love about myself. And it was a challenge for me. Eventually, I finished that list. But what it made me stop and realize was, what do I really like to do? Do I really love curling and hiking and all these other things that I have learned how to do based upon the people that I was spending time with? But was I spending time with myself? And so in the back of my head, there was this little girl screaming, little Mel, screaming for self awareness, for self care, for self identification, to be an independent, unique person that I have been created to be. But I was never able to be that person. That little girl was screaming at me. And everything that I was doing to try to find myself was externally. And I was doing everything on the outside to find out who I was, when what I really needed to do was go inside and spend time with myself and recreate myself and become who I was meant to be, because we all have a purpose. We all have something that we're trying to strive towards. We all have goals that we want to accomplish. But it's important for us to take a second to think about who we're striving for. Are we striving for ourselves? Or are we striving to get that job because everyone else thinks that that's the job that we should take? Or are we striving to build that family because everyone thinks that you need to build that family right now? Are we striving to reach these obscene goals that other people have created for ourselves? So I ask you again, are you trying to fit into a box? What labels have people put on you that maybe you want to rip off? Maybe you want to recreate yourself. How do you do that? That is such a good question. Where do you start? Do you go to the self-help aisle? Do you go hang out with other cultures? How do you do the work that you need to do within yourself to be able to connect with your true identity and find your purpose? And I love helping people find their purpose, mind, body, and soul. And imagine me in my mind, I'm trying to reconnect with who Mel is, but I've got all these other voices from all these other people in my mind that I can't quiet them enough to be able to get to the mind, body, and soul connection. And so I've recreated myself and got myself a new label, and my name is Coach Mel, and I'm a yoga teacher and a life coach. And I help women of color connect with their mind, body, and soul so that they can align with what their true identity and purpose is. And so that list that I gave you earlier, I would love for you to start that list. And if you finish it or need help with it, let me know, reach out to me. My website and my business is called You Got Mel. And so if you are feeling frustrated, stuck, you need support, you need help, You Got Mel. And so that's my website. It's www.yougotmel.com. I'm sorry, .org. www.yougotmel.org. Or you can reach me at my email address, coachmel@yougotmel.org. And I would love to be able to help you walk through how to identify with what your purpose is so that you can be aligned, mind, body, and soul. And if you're trying to accomplish something professionally, I have this tagline that I was given, and I love it. And so I'll share it with you, because when you're personally out of alignment, you're professionally off of assignment. So let's work on you to help you get to what your purpose is. Thank you. I really enjoyed being on this today. Thanks, Jim and Speakers Pathway. And I hope to hear from some of you all soon.